Hi and welcome. This is the second session that we've run. For anyone who's seen the group that has organised this as part of the obviously the much bigger Ada Lovelace conference event, we're BCSWomen, and we're basically a group of folks who are incredibly passionate about tech and the difference that technology can make to society and to each one of our lives. And we just think it's a great place to be, frankly, and we would love more people to join. My name's Sharon, and I'll be hosting today, which largely means I'll be checking chat to make sure that all our questions get answered. I'll bring in our different speakers at the different times, and I will also play the video because one of our speakers has unfortunately had a return to work that means that she can't spare the time now that she's come back from her holiday. So we will play a video of Caitlin, and if you've got any questions for Caitlin, feel free again to pop them in the chat and I'll make sure that she gets them, and then we can share answers at a separate point. So anyway, you're not here to listen from me, you're here to listen to folks that haven't been in tech quite as long as I have and get a slightly fresher perspective. So I'm going to introduce Sjoukje first. Sjoukje joined the team that we're with this part in Scotland a while back, but she's not actually sitting in Scotland right now. So Sjoukje, over to you. Tell us.
Hi from Amsterdam, actually. So, hello, my name is Sjoukje, and I work as a software engineer at a big bank in Glasgow, so Scotland, called JP Morgan. We have over 200,000 people who work almost everywhere in the world, from New York City to Tokyo. But when you think of working in a bank, the Monopoly Man or maybe Gringotts from Harry Potter might pop to mind, but working here is actually very different to that. Everyone in JP Morgan works to help our customers manage their money safely and securely, and we do that by creating the very best digital tools and apps so that they can rely on us when asking to see their bank balance or asking for a new credit card or even buying a house. We want our customers to be able to trust us at every big or small step in their life, and we do so with technology. And that's where I come in. As a software engineer, my job is to create these apps and websites so our customers' information is safe and protected. My team thinks about big problems that our customers are having, like not being able to find the right information quickly, and we give them big and beautiful and simple solutions like a search engine app, kind of like Google. I find that the best apps put the user, so you, first, and make it easy to navigate around. So when you click around, everything is in its place and makes sense. This is how I work. Software engineers never start on a new app by coding. You actually take a lot of time to discuss what our users want in a small group, so kind of like in school. And we use a whiteboard or a drawing tool or even a piece of paper just to sketch out ideas of what the app might look like. And we try different designs and different colors to make the app look and feel the best it can be. Then we start creating it by writing a lot of code. Maybe you've heard about code before at school. We make sure that the code does what we want it to do by testing it. And this is also like tests that you write in school, maybe, to make sure that you understand the material that your teachers taught you. If the code passes all the tests, then we can give the app to our users. Sometimes it's a website and sometimes it's an app that they can use on their phone and download on the App Store. And sometimes it's something completely different. It's maybe another design project or like a widget for on your phone. Then we get feedback from our users when they download it, and we go back to the drawing board if we need to change anything, and then we find ways to improve the app. So that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Now, I would say that the most important skills that you need to be a software engineer are teamwork and creativity, not actually coding. I usually work in a small team with other engineers and designers, and we like to bounce ideas off of each other every day when we work on a new project. When I'm listening to more experienced engineers makes me better at my job. This is really like when you listen to someone who's maybe in the year above at school. You can learn from them. So I keep my ears wide open for ways that can get me to the next level. Sometimes I'll even spend a day watching another engineer write code or test because that lets me see the best way that they do a certain thing. That's called pair programming. So after a while, they'll pass the keyboard to me, and then I'll kind of copy what they've been doing. You need to be creative everywhere in the software engineering process. Like I covered before, in my job, I need to be able to think what our customer or user, like you, wants to do, and then I design an app that suits their needs and abilities. I need to be able to code creatively as well when I make animations or when I make the app faster, because nobody likes a slow website. But what about your coding skills? You need those too. Knowing how to code is obviously important when you're a software engineer like me, but often you'll learn most of what you need to learn on the job, so they'll teach you and you'll take time for it. I take a couple of days a month just to learn about different technologies that I don't use every single day, just to keep myself up to date. And I do it kind of similar like you do in school, with textbooks and videos and tutorials. To be well prepared, I recommend you take computer science classes at school to build on your fundamental skills, like problem solving and coding and designing. These classes will give you everything you need to be a great coder later on and a great creative thinker. You can expect a lot of time in small groups, just like in my job, designing apps and websites and thinking about problems that customers have that can be fixed with technology. So my question to you is, and you can write this in the chat, what is your favorite part of computer science classes at school? I'm interested to know your answers. Can you all find the chat? That's my bit, by the way.
So while folks are having a think about that answer, why don't I start playing the video of Caitlin? So don't forget the question, what's your favourite part about computing at school? Do you actually do any computing at school? Because it might be that you don't do it yet, or you stopped doing it because you thought it was really dull.
Don't stop.
Again. Right, let me play the video. So Caitlin, I have to say a real big sorry to everyone for not being here, but she did take the time to record what she wanted to tell everyone. So I'm going to share this now with everybody. And she looks really funny. She looks like she's the fake bit and their background is real, but it is actually the other way around. So let me pop that to the start and we'll listen to Caitlin for a few minutes. If people on my team, I can see the video. Can you give me a wave if it's not making any noise? Thank you, Hayley.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Clark. I work as a technology and business consultant for a big company called Sopra Steria. I work within an area of our business called customer and organisational transformation. I try to help our customers solve tricky problems alongside lots of my clever and lovely colleagues. We work together in big teams, or sometimes small teams, to help our customers do different things. For example, we might help them work in more modern ways, using digital tools, laptops and tablets, instead of doing things by hand. We might help them to think about the tasks that they do, and help them do things more quickly, or perhaps to help them reduce paper whilst doing them. One of the really exciting and important things we help our customers do is to help them design for their customers. So for example, we might help McDonald's come up with new and innovative ways to serve their customers, you. I'm sure that you have your own perceptions or thoughts about what it means to work for an IT company, but I'd like to share with you a few things that I wish I'd known when I was a teenager. First of all, I want to share with you that IT is a great place to be as our world becomes more digital every day. The use of technology is increasing even more than normal right now because of the coronavirus. So think about what the future is going to look like. Companies have had to adapt to working in remote ways, which means they need really good technology in place to help them stay connected with each other and their customers in order to get their work done. And they do this even from their own house. You may have seen this firsthand from your mum or dad. Because of this, there are huge amounts of opportunities. So, when the time comes My advice for you is to explore your options, ask lots of questions, and come and join the growing world of technology. Secondly, I want to ask you to forget about the stereotypes associated with IT and technology. Over the years that I've worked in technology, I've learned about all the different roles and skills that are needed in technology companies. There are roles which require people who are very organised, and they could be project managers. People who are creative and artistic, they could be designers, designing what the next big app might look like. There's those that like to get stuck into complex problems and like to figure out what's happening behind the scenes, and we call them architects. And no, not like the ones who build houses. They're technical architects, and they build and design technology systems. And we might know someone who likes very technical detail like coding, which you might have done at school. We call them software engineers or developers. There are also those who are more focused on the impact that technology has on people. We have to remember that using technology doesn't always come naturally to everyone. So, when we're helping our customers make changes like creating new apps or websites, we need to make sure that we communicate all the plans really clearly. We need to train the staff to use the technology, and we need to make sure that they're comfortable with all the changes that are happening behind the scenes. We do this by talking to everyone who will be impacted, and we support them through every stage. This is a specialist type of role too, and it's called change management. So I hope you've gathered that there are lots and lots of roles within technology. There is something for everyone. Thirdly, I wish that I had known how interesting the world of technology is. I can honestly tell you that I learn something new every day. Technology is involved in so many aspects of our lives. So yes, there's a lot to learn about technology itself, but it also helps teach you so much about the world and the way the world works. I know this might not seem that great to all of you right now, but trust me that one day this will really matter. And finally, the world of technology needs more girls and women in it. I wish I'd known that the technology world is crying out for us. Women and girls bring different ways of thinking. Having diverse teams in every way is so important so that we can bring lots of ideas to the table and build amazing things. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you have a great day.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin, even though you can't hear me. She talked about architects. Doing
Sorry.
career. And she mentioned software engineers, which is Sjoukje as well. Right. So I'm seeing there's questions coming in. We will get to the questions, but what we'll do is we'll listen to Eilidh and then we'll start having more of a conversation. So Eilidh, you're a little bit different. Tell us more.
Hello, yes, I am a little different. So I'm Eilidh and I am a solicitor at Brodies LLP. So Brodies is a full service Scottish commercial law firm, which means that we do all types of law for all different clients. I personally work in litigation, so basically court work and disputes with clients who maybe think they're going to court or maybe want to go to court. And a large part of the work that I do, and the reason that I'm here today, is I work with clients who are at tech companies or work within tech. So you might not think of my role as traditionally being a tech role, and in fact you might think of law as the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to modernisation and technology. But my day-to-day work does require me to have an understanding of what my tech company clients do and what challenges they might face. Having that understanding makes it easier for both us and for the client to get an understanding of what the dispute is and work together to resolve it. So I have to step in and advise clients who have ended up in disputes over timeframes in software development projects, where there's been delays or where licenses for software haven't been paid for, or where a social media client, there was a complaint about what had been put on their social media and how much the control they have over that. So generally speaking, how does the law relate to tech? As you all know, technology is ever expanding at a ever quick pace. And the things that fuel this and the consequences and the opportunities that arise from that expansion are continually growing, and the law needs to adapt with them. So it presents a challenge for the law to continually grow along with tech, in response to tech, and to make sure that it's growing in the correct way. So there's various areas that my work touches on to do with that. So we have intellectual property law. So you might have heard of copyrights. Copyrights are rights that you can have over something that you've created. So it might be a song you've created, or an image that you've created, or a piece of software, a piece of coding. You will either copyright that or you'll have a patent over it, which is a similar thing. And that means you're the only one that can use it, and anyone else that wants to use it has to have your permission. And the law protects anyone else from using it, protects you and your rights in it. So there's more of that these days because, first of all, there's more things being invented and created in more different ways every day. And there's also more scope for it being breached. So if you were a photographer decades ago, you would take your photos, a very limited number of people would see them, and nobody would be able to get at them. Whereas if you post them online, anybody can right click and save them, and then they've got a copy of your photo. So the law has to develop to protect the people with the rights to those photos, to mean that the fact they can put them online is a positive and doesn't infringe their rights any further. We've also looked at ethics and data protection. So you might have heard of GDPR being talked about in the news a couple of years ago. Essentially, this is a piece of EU law that protects people and controls the way that companies can use your data. So your data is everything from your name to your medical records, and you will be putting a lot of that online on a regular basis, sometimes without even realizing it. So anytime you sign up to anything, you may see now, if you put your email address in, you have to tick a wee box that says that you want to be contacted, or you agree to be contacted, and that wee box is there because of GDPR. So the law develops to make sure that the use of tech is always for a positive and protects any data being stored or used against you, or used for a purpose that you don't want it to be used for. So many parts of your day-to-day life you don't realize are being affected, first by tech and the advances in tech, and also by the law, and trying to avoid those advances being a negative and keep them as a positive. Speaking about the ethics, you may have also seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix recently. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. That touches on how tech in the social media industry has expanded over the past couple of years, and the ethical issues that come along with that. And it looks at how the law has addressed some of those issues and how it's still struggling to address some of those issues. So the law has to continue to adapt. For example, Mark Zuckerberg has said, you know, Facebook's there, he can't control what it does with political campaigns. But at the end of the day, decades ago, or 4 decades, we've had laws that have protected people in what you can and can't do in electoral campaigns. So it's just a new sphere for that, and the law will adapt to deal with it in the cyber sphere as well. But a little bit about how I ended up doing tech as a lawyer. Briefly, as a young person in school, I got on fairly well in a kind of round range of subjects. So I quite enjoyed maths and science, was also good at English, didn't know what I wanted to do. It got to getting my hires, and people were asking what I wanted to do, and I couldn't come up with an answer. And the reason I couldn't come up with an answer wasn't because I didn't know what I liked, or I didn't know what I wanted to be good at, but I didn't know what I really wanted it to be my thing, and what I wanted to do essentially for the rest of my life. So I struggled for that for a while, and eventually someone suggested law, and I researched that, and I ended up doing that. But when I trained, and throughout school and throughout my university, I always tried to keep up a range of subjects and a range of interests outside of school. And that meant that my interest in tech has continued to this day. So it means that I do have that understanding, basic understanding of tech that I can use with clients, which means that they don't have to explain everything from scratch to me, and I have an understanding of it. So when I present their arguments, it comes from a place of some understanding and knowledge about the industry and the challenges that they operate in. That was just a little fast tour of my career.
Thank you very much, Eilidh. So I'm just having a wee look at the questions that are in the chat, and they were mostly about the favourite part of computing and who's done it and that kind of thing. So if anyone has a question for Eilidh or for Sjoukje or even for Caitlin, and I can ask Caitlin later, then please do that. Here we go. We've got one from Ella. Do you ever get involved in crowdsourced cases, Eilidh, like against tech giants like Facebook?
Personally, no, and crowdsourced cases in Scotland are still fairly unique. There has only been one all the way through now, as far as I'm aware, but there's now been precedent where there has been one, so there's certainly the scope to have them, and there's no reason why there can't be. Scotland, in the past month or so, has now brought in group proceedings as well, so similar to in England where they're called class actions. If you bring, if everybody's been harmed by the same thing, then they can all bring the same action. So the film Eva Bromovich is a class action. So
I have a question. What is crowdsourced? What does that mean in law?
It's just where there's donations from across, anyone can donate to fund the action.
Okay.
There's a website for it. Just giving.
Oh, true. I think it's called, is it? No, that's the petition one. That's change.com.
Like Kickstarter. So I've got a question for Sjoukje and Eilidh. What have you, I wrote this down earlier so I wouldn't forget. What have you learned from school years that you carry with you now?
So I think we chatted about this briefly before, but I always really enjoyed sitting with somebody and teaching them because it kind of identified my own shortcomings. So sometimes I was teaching someone maths, someone who was in maybe the year below, or like someone who was struggling in my class, and then I would find out that I also didn't know the subject that well. But then together we would work through it. And then in the end, we would solve all the problems. And actually, I still do that. So I kind of mentioned in my talk, I mentioned what pair programming was. And pair programming is really that you have one computer and you have one person sitting at the keyboard, but you have two people. So you kind of work on a problem together. You take turns typing, but you're really working on one problem together, and that really fixes any problems that you have outstanding really quickly. So I've kind of taken like that teaching into my work, but also after work when I teach women how to code. So it also makes me a better engineer when I get to really explain something in detail to someone. Because often you might feel that you're at like 80%, like in terms of knowing something, but it really brings you up to 100%. When someone asks you a question, you answer it for them. And you learn a lot from them as well. So I recommend that you continue doing that. It's really hard to do that on Zoom these days. Oh, I guess you're in school, Eva. But yeah, that's really carried across for me.
Eilidh, anything from you? I mean, you said you did lots of subjects you were really quite good at, and was there a thing from school that wasn't about the subject that you sort of, is it your ability to pick lots of things up?
In a very, very small amount of each time. No, I think in a similar vein to what Sjoukje was saying, the collaborative approach that you develop during school, studying with your friends, is something that you can lose as you enter the work world, and it's something to keep on top of. Particularly, for example, where I work, there's lots of people that do different types of law. So there might be questions that you're not best placed to answer, and there are questions that you you learnt about it 10 years ago and you haven't considered it since. But if you have that collaborative approach and you develop that both just socially, and then you can take it into work, and be able to ask the stupid questions and ask questions, because as long as you're asking questions, then you'll always learn and be able to better it.
And there's no stupid question.
And there's no stupid question.
Really quickly when you start working, there's no stupid question, because actually chances are if you have that question, there's somebody else has got that question too, and it's just who's got the most courage to actually other people.
Be that person.
There's no stupid questions, there's questions and courage, I think.
Everyone will love you for asking the question, by the way.
It's so funny that way. That's funny that way. So I don't think we've got any more questions, although I've seen that, you know, learning through collaboration is coming through as a theme. It is. For those of you who are solo workers, that is okay. Just you have to learn a little bit about how to work with other people, because yeah, what's that phrase? No man is an island, no person is an island. So I'm probably using it completely out of context. Really specific historic point, and I've forgotten the rest of the story. But yeah, there's that thing about actually we still have to get really good at stuff ourselves, but we need to find out ways to work together, because actually genuinely it makes us better and it makes us more productive, and we can do bigger things when there's more people working on something. You just need to be in charge if you want to make sure it goes the way you want it to. Any last thoughts, Eilidh, Sjoukje, anything else that you want to just add before we start the session?
Looking back, and I'd say like looking back at my school years, I always worked really hard for grades. That was really important for me. I really wanted to just get the best grade I could. And I wasn't sure why I was doing that, but that was just very important to me. But I would say that I would balance that with also having fun. So doing things that make you happy, going outside, hanging out with friends, making art, reading. I think that's really important as well. So like, I know you all love technology and screens are everywhere right now, but like do something that you really feel good about doing. Learn as many things as you can. Go to museums, play sports. Looking back, I wish I'd done more of that and taken the grades a bit less seriously, because it all works out in the end. I think if you do your best, there's nothing more you can do.
I think that is a perfect way to finish. So we're just going to do something that
do your best.
Thank you very much for that wonderful strapline, Sjoukje. Thank you to everyone who's joined. I hope you've learned something. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as part of this conversation. Eilidh, Sjoukje, huge thanks. Caitlin, if you watch the recording, we're thanking you too. Bye everyone. Have a great evening when it comes. Enjoy watching telly or doing something that's not tech.
Yes. Okay, bye everyone.